Captain Midnight.
This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. When Lion King was adapted to the Broadway stage back in 1997, a key choice was made. Instead of dressing the characters in lion outfits or trying to capture the look of a lion, they decided to go in a very different direction. They mounted wooden animal heads to the performers, simply letting the actors act. The show embraced the music of the movie, of course, but it didn't stop there. It leaned into the emotional power of the story and the bright, over-the-top colors, creating a show that was highly expressionistic, if not realistic. 2019's Lion King takes the opposite approach in almost every way, and while the stage version went on to be the most successful and third longest running play in Broadway history, I'd be shocked if this movie has a fraction of that impact. Much like the Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella remakes, it's definitely very profitable but almost certainly destined to be a footnote next to the iconic original. But really, I'd take either of those movies over this one. Honestly, I feel like I might owe this year's Hellboy remake an apology. I thought for sure it'd be the worst movie I saw in theaters this year, and maybe in some ways it still is. It's got a horrendously sloppy script. But its biggest problem is that it was trying to do way too much, and I'd take that slurry of weird concepts and ideas over sitting through this again. A movie that truly feels like it was resurrected in the Pet Cemetery, came back soulless, a little creepy, and fundamentally wrong.
Are you happy, Mommy?
Hug your daughter.
And look, I usually try not to be too over the top or hyperbolic when reviewing a movie, but I really do think that this movie earns it because it just feels so cynical.
There's a cool new Lion King spoon free in marked boxes of Cheerios. And hey, it even changes color in milk.
Wow.
Famously, the late 80s and 90s were an incredible era for Disney animation, often called the Disney Renaissance. Films like Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, and Beauty and the Beast were connecting with audiences in a way that Disney hadn't managed in years, with Lion King debatably being the crown jewel of them all. And the best of these movies hold up really well, I think. There's some dated pop culture references, but it almost doesn't matter when there's so much color and energy on screen. And if there's one thing that I think these movies did well above all, it was delivering big emotional musical crescendos. When I think back on The Little Mermaid, it's moments like this that come to mind. Aladdin has A Whole New World, Hercules had I Can Go the Distance. Even more recent Disney animated movies tap into this, like Frozen's Let It Go. These are all songs where characters sing about their dreams and their feelings in a very straightforward, universal, and powerful way. And they're songs that perfectly express that old Broadway saying that characters should sing in musicals when their emotions are so powerful, there's almost no other way to express them. The original Lion King is filled with these moments, where important character beats are played out almost entirely through song, something the stage play was able to use to great effect. So how about the remake? Alright, we obviously have to talk about the photorealistic elephant in the room, the visuals. And I should say, it's obvious that a ton of work went into making these animals look as realistic as possible. Hundreds of people worked long hours to make that a reality, and I think they really pulled it off. My problem is not with those VFX artists. It's with the people in charge who decided that hyper-realistic was the way to go with this story. Rewatching the original Lion King, it just seems like such a bizarre decision to me, as it strips away so many of the film's biggest strengths. And I don't think there's any better example than the big Rafiki scene, which I'm sure you'll all remember. In the original version of the film, it's really funny, very important to the plot, and honestly pretty breathtaking. And how the new movie recreates it is everything that doesn't work about this film in miniature. Rafiki isn't funny at all, he barely gets any characterization. So all this stuff, yeah, you can pretty much chuck that out the window. Next, there's the visuals. And this might be more important than you think. I mean, think about the story function that this scene serves. It's basically the switch that makes Simba decide, yes, I should go back to the Pride Lands and take my place as king. That's a huge moment, and it's all sold in just a few minutes with these powerful visuals. Mufasa in the cloud imparting wisdom to his son, and this really great Spielbergian shot of Simba in pure awe. So despite how quickly it all happens, you immediately buy this as a plot development. Of course he's going to go back to the Pride Lands. The remake's version of this falls flat on its face. It's afraid to get as theatrical or as expressionistic as the original, so it really fails to sell Simba's choice. If there's one thing that sums up Lion King 2019 the best, it's that even though it's obsessed with recreating nearly everything from the 1994 film, it's also the kind of movie that's really afraid to show us a giant lion in a cloud. Even more than the Jungle Book remake, it's obsessed with the concept of realism. But it really seems like everyone involved failed to ask if embracing realism was the best way to tell a story about singing animals. Because this choice has major consequences that expand far beyond just the animals can no longer show much emotion. Do you like the original Be Prepared scene with its clouds of green fog and its sinister look? I sure hope not, because all of that is stripped away. The blue moonlight glow of the scene set at night, that's gone too, leaving us with a far more dull look. All of this adds up to a fairy tale that's trying to look like a nature documentary. And nothing against nature documentaries, but that doesn't seem like a great way to tell this story.
Each magical page of Disney's animated storybook, The Lion King, is filled with exciting and colorful adventures that bring Simba and his friends.
Which leads us to the performances. It turns out that the cast of the original was really lucky, because they had animators that were actually allowed to portray how their characters felt visually. Our new cast actually has a much tougher challenge, because they have to convey everything through their voices alone, trying to get across what these characters are feeling without much help from body language at all. Except for maybe Billy Eichner, whose Timon at least gets to be a little expressive. Thanks to the animal he's playing just being a lot more twitchy than lions and warthogs are. In general though, the obvious stunt casting does this movie no favors. While I think the kid actors do a pretty good job with young Nala and Simba, Beyonce is painfully miscast as adult Nala. She nails the songs, sure, but she's no voice actor. And that becomes very clear from the moment she's introduced. Acting has just never been her strong suit. She's stilted in Austin Powers 3, is kind of the weak link in Dreamgirls, and is just plain terrible in Obsessed. But this Nala role is just unfair, and leaves her with nothing but a song or two and her painfully awkward line readings. Seth Rogen has the opposite problem. He's pretty fun in bantery scenes between Timon and Pumbaa, but unlike the original actor, he's definitely no singer, and the film tries to stretch his talents there a little too far. And look, I like Donald Glover, like I'm a big fan of him in Community, Atlanta, and even Solo, but he totally phones it in here, giving a performance that feels like he could just sleepwalk through. Then there's Scar, and I can't even really critique this performance because it's just unfair. The screenplay stripped Scar of anything that made him memorable. Like Orson Welles wouldn't have been able to make him interesting with this material. But was it all bad? I mean, I guess I'll give some credit to the new Timon and Pumbaa, who I thought worked the best, but still kind of felt like a pale imitation of the original. There's just absolutely nothing here that felt interesting or daring to me, except maybe the photorealism, and as I've said, I consider that to be a pretty failed experiment. The Lion King 2019 has made a lot of money, and will probably continue to. And these remakes will keep coming until Disney runs out of animated classics that people have any nostalgia for. I mean, I guess that's fine. But The Lion King, both the original and the stage play, are still beloved after more than 20 years. And I'd be shocked if anyone cared about this movie like 20 days after seeing it. So yeah, 2019 Lion King left a bad taste in my mouth. But to wash it out, I watched some actual animals. The documentary Southern Africa explores the nature of the region with a ton of amazing 4K footage, all without the creepy, uncanny valley effect. It was honestly like a really relaxing watch, and you can check it out on Curiosity Stream. Now, I've told you before that it's from the founder of the Discovery Channel, but if you're still on the fence, you really need to check out just how many documentaries it has to choose from. We're talking over 2,400 titles. I've learned a ton about history, nature, and tech since subscribing, and that's really just the beginning. Curiosity Stream is available worldwide on a ton of devices and starts at the great price of $2.99 a month. and you can get 30 days on the service free just by going to curiositystream.com/CaptainMidnight. That's curiositystream.com/CaptainMidnight.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and